They never tell you what silence really sounds like until you've stood over a grave that never wanted to be opened. In this line of work, we dig up grief like it's just another job site, another contract, but sometimes the soil gives back more than bones. Sometimes it remembers, sometimes it watches you back. You spend enough years doing exhumations, and you start to catalog the small rituals people cling to in death. Lockets, toy animals, handwritten letters, smudged by time. I found a violin bow with no violin, a single glove from a wedding that never happened, even a child's drawing sealed under wax paper. You get used to the sentimental, you don't get used to wrong. This one started like any other. We were hired to recover and relocate the remains of a child buried in 1968. Clara Ellen Reed, 8 years old. Death certificate read, pneumonia. No red flags. The last living relative, her older sister Meredith, wanted her moved to a cemetery closer to where she now lived in Ashland, Oregon. That was it. The grave was tucked into the backmost section of an old municipal cemetery. Not many visitors made it that far. The soil was soft, layered with decades of moss and silence. We flagged the area, ran our checks, and began the dig. The casket was a child-sized bronze box, standard for the time. Weathered, sealed tight, no evidence of prior tampering, but the moment we uncovered it, the crew went quiet. I've been around long enough to recognize a hush not caused by reverence, but by unease, the kind that rises when something isn't quite right, even if you can't say why. We opened it. What we found inside has haunted every dig since. Clara's remains were mostly intact. Skeletal, her tiny hands were folded neatly across her chest. Her shoes, surprisingly well preserved, were still on, but something rested squarely over where her face would have been. A mask, porcelain, impossibly white. The eyes painted a faded shade of forget-me-not blue, mouth delicately parted as if caught mid-whisper. It was detailed, fragile, antique, and wrong. Not a child's toy, not a mourning piece. Something older, something expectant. We froze, documented, bagged. You follow protocol when things don't make sense. The funeral director on site looked paler than I'd ever seen her. She double-checked Clara's original burial inventory. One rosary, a cotton dress, pink shoes, a letter from her mother. No mention of a mask. We contacted the sister. When Meredith answered, her voice cracked before we even asked the question. She didn't recognize the mask, said Clara hated masks, cried at Halloween, screamed. If someone wore one near her, their parents would never have buried her with something like that. Meredith made us promise not to rebury it with her. She called back the next day. She'd been going through old family photo albums, said she found a picture she didn't remember ever seeing. Clara, maybe 5 years old, sitting on the edge of her bed, her face twisted in terror, and on the wall behind her, in the grainy shadow, hung a porcelain mask. Same shape, same eyes. No one knew where the photo had come from. We sent the mask for analysis, late 1800s, hand-molded, European origin, no maker's mark, no trace of decomposition inside. It had not touched flesh. It had not degraded. It was perfect, like it had just been placed there, or like it had never left. Weeks passed. The reinterment went on without issue. The mask, per the family's request, was placed into evidence storage. Or, that was the plan. 2 weeks later, the storage unit was found empty. The camera outside had gone dark for 3 hours that night. The only footage left showed the door opening, though no one was seen entering. There was only one sound on the audio track. Porcelain scraping over concrete. I've tried to move on, but I can't, because it followed me. 3 nights ago, I woke up gasping, heart pounding, the kind of panic that doesn't come from dreams. My bedroom was freezing, every window locked, but I swear, I could hear tiny footsteps just past the door, like someone small, barefoot, circling my bed. I turned on the lamp. Nothing. Except on my nightstand, where I keep a photo of my daughter. Someone had turned it around. The next morning, I found fine white dust in a trail from the doorway to my closet, and faint, powdery impressions on the floor, the exact shape of a small, bare foot. I don't sleep now. I don't dig anymore. And I haven't touched porcelain since. Let me tell you something no manual will. You think the dead rest. You think closure is real. You think graves are endpoints. But some things bury themselves deep, so deep that they rot the memory of the world around them. Clara Reed died in 1968, but something else was buried that day, and it still isn't done watching. Hey friends, thanks for tuning in. A huge shout out to our amazing subscribers. You're the reason these chilling tales keep coming to life. If you're enjoying the spine-tingling stories, consider hitting that subscribe button. It only takes a second, but it means the world to us. While you're at it, don't forget to like and share to keep the chills spreading. We appreciate you more than you know. See you in the next one if you dare. You get to know the quiet out here. Not the kind that hums beneath city lights or falls with the dusk. I mean the deeper kind. The stillness that thickens like fog between the graves. The silence that doesn't wait for nightfall. It sits heavy during daylight too. It's the quiet of names erased from memory, of records gone brittle and wrong. The kind that doesn't just settle, it watches. I used to think I understood that quiet until that vault. This one was supposed to be simple. A routine exhumation. A family, cordial, proper. Wanted their grandfather moved closer to the newer plots, near the columbarium wall. Better drainage. Newer ground. No one likes their kin resting in the west field anymore. Not since the sinkhole, a few years back, cracked 6 headstones like eggshells. We had the permits, double-checked the files. Everything lined up. Name, Lewis Carr. Died, 1972. World War II vet, father of 3. We flagged the site at dawn. The sun barely grazing the trees. Marked it off like always. Yellow tape. Tools laid out in order. No family present. Just a county rep and a funeral home witness. Nothing unusual. It was an old double-depth vault, the kind poured in the 50s. We knew it'd be heavy. The top slab was slow work, patchy caulking, brittle from age. But something about it felt off, like it didn't want to be opened. The seal was cracked before. Not recently, but it had been lifted, then resealed with carelessness. That wasn't noted anywhere. We pried the lid gently, the way you do when you respect the dead, or suspect you're not alone. I've seen my share of messes, flood victims, bones moved by tree roots, whole rows relocated after construction. But this was different. Inside, it wasn't just Lewis Carr. The bones didn't settle right. The skull faced the wrong way. The rib cage was flattened, like it had been stepped on. Vertebrae scattered like a spilled box of nails. And then the others, smaller bones, overlapping. A jawbone with milk teeth. A pelvis too narrow for a grown man. A femur, shorter and delicate. I looked at the rep. She went pale and turned away. We halted everything. Called the coroner. Tarped the site. Forensics came in fast. 3 people. One matched Lewis Carr. The others? A woman, later matched to a missing persons report from 1981, name redacted in the file, I saw. The third, too young, maybe 12 or 13, no ID, no records, nothing in the logs. The cemetery index, both handwritten and digital, showed a single burial, no reuse, no ashes, no shared family plot, nothing but Mr. Carr. I kept thinking about the seal, about how it didn't crumble like 50-year-old caulk should. And something else, the inner walls of the vault. They were scored, long, vertical scratch marks. Like something or someone had tried to claw its way out. We exhumed everything. The family opted for cremation. They didn't want to know more, said they wanted peace. But I couldn't stop thinking about the scratches, or the smell earthy. Yes, but laced with something wrong. Old, bitter copper, like rust and meat. We found strands of hair not attached to any skull, human, but pale. Translucent, almost. A forensic tech joked it looked like spider silk. No one laughed. The county locked the report. Vault was sealed again. Fresh grass planted. Just a number now. No stone, no names. Sometimes I walk by that plot. Not because I want to, but because I feel drawn. There's a pull to it. Like the ground remembers me. Or maybe it's the thing beneath. The thing that isn't bones or records, but hunger. The kind that waits in silence, under roots and topsoil, under forged signatures and misplaced files. We thought we uncovered a mistake, but maybe we interrupted something that was meant to stay buried. And some nights, when the fog sinks low and the quiet grows teeth, I swear I hear tapping from beneath the grass. Not loud, just patient, waiting. You spend enough time with the dead, you start to understand the silence they leave behind. But silence isn't peace. Sometimes it's pressure, weight. Echoes that don't fade, they wait. I've dug graves for murderers, saints, children, monsters. And in time you learn which ones are which. Not from the obituaries, from the dirt. There's a heaviness to evil, like the ground resists letting go. And once, just once, I felt that resistance turn into refusal. That was the Grant job. Though even saying his name still makes my skin itch. Been doing this line of work close to 2 decades now. I've buried infants light as air and men who took 4 of us to lift. I've watched mourners claw at caskets and others walk away like they were late for lunch. But only once did I see the earth itself try to keep someone down. That job still clings to me like mildew in my lungs. It was autumn, the kind that starts beautiful and ends in rot. Trees barely holding their gold, wind sharp enough to cut. I was assigned to Mill Ridge Cemetery, Northern Quadrant. Old section. Real old. You can feel it when you step in. Like walking into a room someone just left, but forgot to take their presence with them. Graves dated back to the 1800s. Stones leaning like tired sentinels. A place heavy with memory. Even the air tastes forgotten. Around 10:30 the call came from the office. Exhumation order for a man named Ronan Ellison Grant. Plot B12. Simple paperwork. Supposedly the daughter wanted the remains moved to a family crypt in a newer cemetery out east. But then came the note. Casket secured with iron bindings. Proceed with extreme caution. Family has acknowledged and approved containment measures. Now, I've seen chains before. Once. A Civil War deserter, supposedly buried under local superstition. They said he walked for 3 nights after being declared dead. But this was different. Grant died in 1998. Not the 1800s. Not folklore. But somehow it felt worse. I arrived on site around noon. Clarissa Grant was already there. Late 40s, maybe. Standing too still. Not grief still. More like bracing for something. She wouldn't meet my eyes, just stared at the plot, like she was trying to will it shut. I asked if there was anything we needed to know. She said flat and low, "He doesn't like to be moved. He gets angry." I waited for a follow-up. There wasn't one. My partner gave me a sideways glance, but we started digging. Standard equipment, mini excavator, vault pry tools, bolt cutters. The ground felt wrong, thick. Not muddy, just resistant. Took longer than usual. Every scoop sounded muffled, like the earth was swallowing the noise. Eventually we reached the vault. No cracks, no leaks. But frost lined the edges. Strange for that time of year. We pried open the lid, and there it was. A casket like I've never seen. Cast iron. Blackened, flaking in places. 6 handles bound tight with wrought iron chain, looped 3 ways across the top, around the body. Every lock was different. Some modern, some antique. All rusted like they'd been submerged. And each one was engraved with a symbol. Crosses, runes, crescent moons. Protective glyphs from religions I didn't even recognize. Tommy whispered, "What the hell were they keeping in there?" I radioed the office, confirmed everything. Clarissa never left her spot, never flinched. I asked her again, "Ma'am, Are you sure you want us to open this? She finally looked at me, and there was something in her eyes I'll never forget, like she'd already seen what would happen and accepted it. Don't open it, just move it. Somewhere dark, somewhere quiet, and don't let the light touch him. We didn't argue, started cutting the chains, one by one. Every lock made the same sound when it hit the ground. Dull, flat, like it didn't belong to this world. But curiosity, it gets you. When we got the casket up, I waited until no one was watching, and flipped the lid. I wish I hadn't. Ronan Grant was intact, too intact. The embalming was perfect, but the face wasn't. His lips were drawn back, not in decay, in defiance. His eyes sewn shut, but wrong, too shallow, like someone did it after death, but before peace. Across his chest were 7 crucifixes, different sizes, different materials. Around his neck, a noose of thorny vines, dried but still pungent. Beneath his tongue was a flat, black stone, carved with tiny symbols, Celtic, maybe. His hands were crossed and bound with wire, not string. Each finger had been clipped, the tips, not recent. He wore a rosary as a belt, but the beads were cracked like they'd burst from pressure, and the smell, sage, myrrh, clove, and something beneath that, like burnt bone and wet pennies. Then came the whisper. Not loud, not outside, inside, like the sound of your own thought turning on you. You shouldn't have looked. I slammed the lid shut. I bolted it. I didn't speak, didn't breathe right for a long while. Clarissa finally broke her silence. He used to say, if death ever took him, he'd drag it back with him. Said he made a trade once. Something old. Something that gave him years in exchange for doors. My mother said he changed after he came back from the war, but I think he was always this way. Just learned how to hide it better. She said she was 9 the first time she saw him talking to the mirror, not his reflection. To it, her brother vanished in 87. No leads, no note, just gone. Ronan claimed he ran away. Clarissa believed he was in the walls, still does. She said he'd promised, from his hospital bed, you'll never be rid of me. Blood remembers. We moved the casket to the new crypt. Reinforced. No ceremony, no priest. She sealed the nameplate with black wax herself, left a key with the caretaker, and told him never to open it, no matter the screams. Now and then, I still check on it. Once or twice, I swear I heard something, like a sigh, or laughter, or a knock. But the worst part, sometimes I dream of that stone, the one under his tongue. I don't know what it means, but in my dreams it pulses. And every time I wake up, I feel something has moved. Not in the house, in me. You work this job long enough, you learn some graves aren't meant to be dug. Some silence isn't absence, it's containment. And some people, they don't die, they wait. Hey friends, thanks for tuning in. A huge shout out to our amazing subscribers. You're the reason these chilling tales keep coming to life. If you're enjoying the spine-tingling stories, consider hitting that subscribe button. It only takes a second, but it means the world to us. While you're at it, don't forget to like and share to keep the chills spreading. We appreciate you more than you know. See you in the next one if you dare. You learn things from the dirt. Secrets. Not because it speaks, because it remembers. Clay and stone, sand and silt. They hold on to what was buried, even when time forgets. Some graves give up their dead easy. Others, you have to ask permission. And then there's the kind that never wanted to be opened at all. It started as routine. County-ordered exhumation, family dispute, probate nonsense. I've done hundreds of them. It was a hot, still Monday when we got the call. They gave us the name Evelyn Glass. Died 1971. Buried in Section H, Lot 44, pressed against the east retaining wall. I knew the spot. Everyone in the crew did. We avoided it when we could. See, Section H has always been off. The soil stays damp, no matter the season, even in drought. The grass grows too fast there. But more than that, it's the silence. Birds don't land in that section. Sound doesn't carry right. You can be 10 feet away and not hear someone call your name. Still, work is work. Me and Ray brought out the jackhammer and spades. I checked my watch, 8:17 a.m., just after the dew burned off. We started cutting into the top layer. That's when the sound began. It wasn't feedback or echo. It was a resonance, like the hum you feel in your teeth when you stand too close to high-voltage wire. At first I thought it was mechanical. Ray thought it might be a gas line, something buried. But it didn't fade. It changed, shifted pitch, with every pulse of the jackhammer. After the third burst I looked at Ray. He had stopped drilling and was staring into the dirt like he'd seen something move. "Did you hear that?" he asked. I did, but I said no. We went manual. Safer, slower. 2 feet down, the soil gave way to fill. That's when we hit the letters. Folded pages in sealed plastic, buried like offerings. Some were dated as recent as last year. Each one addressed Evelyn. Each one different handwriting. They weren't condolences. They were confessions. We stopped digging for a minute. Just stood there. No wind. No birds. Not even traffic from the road behind the hill. Like something had closed a door over the sky. Ray wanted to leave. Said we should call it in. Report a disturbance. Maybe even a crime scene. I told him we finish the dig first. We went another foot and found bone. Not Evelyn's. Animal. Dozens of them. Stripped clean. Arranged in patterns I didn't understand. Circles. Spirals. One shape that looked like an eye. Ray started muttering to himself. Not in words, just sounds. Low syllables under his breath. I thought he was praying. I realized after a while it wasn't his voice. We reached the coffin around noon. Simple steel casket. Factory issued. It should have been sealed tight. But the edges were rusted through and lined with salt crystals, melted into the metal like they'd been poured in molten. I leaned down and brushed the top clean, and that's when I saw the etchings. They went from the outside. They were scraped from within, just shallow enough to miss, unless you knew to look. Dozens of lines, looping, overlapping, scratched like fingernails. Some were words, "Don't unlock me." Still inside, I dreamed my way out. Then there were the drawings. Faces, twisted, watching. Some with mouths sewn shut. Some with their eyes scratched out. Ray walked away. He was shaking. I heard him crying, trying not to. I didn't stop him. I stayed. I pressed my hand against the lid, and the metal was warm. That's when the whispering returned. Not from the ground this time, from the air itself. All around me, a chorus of mouths, not speaking, but breathing. I couldn't make out words, but I felt the shapes of them crawling behind my ears. I radioed the funeral director. He said they'd be there soon. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My tongue felt wrong in my mouth, thick, like I'd forgotten how to use it. Then, beneath the edge of the casket, something moved. Just a twitch, like a shift in pressure, a sigh escaping the soil. The moment passed. Ray came back. He looked pale, older somehow. Neither of us spoke. The transport team arrived late. We winched the coffin up. As soon as it cleared the hole, the whispering stopped. Not faded. Stopped. Like someone hit a switch. The ground felt cold. We filled the grave back in and left without a word. They took Evelyn's body to another state. Her niece, I think. 2 weeks later, the same plot was reassigned. I didn't ask why, just dug it myself. Wire dirt. Dry, still, unremarkable. But I kept the letters. I shouldn't have. I know that now. Because some nights, around 3 a.m., I wake up to the sound of dirt moving. Not outside, underneath me, and I know this much. The thing we dug up wasn't Evelyn. It wore her name, but it had never been buried. It had been kept. The dead don't rest in places like Section H. Not because of curses, or ghosts. Because sometimes what's buried isn't dead, just forgotten, or worse, remembering. And now, so am I. I've walked among the dead longer than I've lived among the living. 22 years, a caretaker, and I know this cemetery like I know the breath in my lungs. But some places on this land, they don't belong to time, or memory, or God. They just wait, quiet and patient, like they know one day someone's going to come dig them up and let them loose again. Been tending these grounds since '03. Long enough that I can name every stone in the West Fields from memory. Most of the cemetery's simple rows of granite, grass kept trim, families that come and go with holidays. But there's a corner, southeast side, where nothing grows right. We call it Hollow Corner. Not officially, of course, but those of us who've been here long enough, we know. You feel it when you walk by. Like the air's too still. Like you've just walked into the pause between a breath and a scream. I hadn't had cause to step foot in that part of the cemetery for over a decade, until a request came in from some probate lawyer in Ohio. Said he was representing a family trying to relocate a relative, Elijah Rinn, buried 72. No headstone, just a rusted county marker, bent like a snapped rib. I pulled the register. The entry was there but off, ink lighter than the rest's, squeezed between margins. No funeral record, no next of kin. The handwriting didn't match the clerk who logged that year. Still, the order came down, so we had to dig. Darren and Jimmy helped me that morning. Started just after first light, dry season. So the ground crunched under our shovels. Layers of clay and old roots made it slow going. Hour and a half in, Jimmy's spade hit something. It was wood, barely. A box, really. Thin, brittle. When we cracked it open, we expected a man's remains. But what stared back at us through sockets hollowed by time wasn't Elijah Rinn. It was a woman, small frame, stripped bare, fabric near the collar faded blue stripes, like a nurse's uniform from the war era. No records, no ID. Darren muttered, "She's not supposed to be here." I told them to keep digging. Maybe this was some kind of mistake. We peeled back another layer of soil and hit coffin number 2. Oak, this time, heavier. Hadn't seen daylight in decades. Inside, a man in a black suit, jaw open like he died mid-sentence. Still had a ring on, but no name, no paper trail. The wind picked up when we opened that second box, cold out of nowhere. Not a gust, not a breeze, just one long exhale that moved the leaves and made Darren step back like he'd been slapped. Jimmy whispered, "We shouldn't be doing this." But by then, we'd gone too far. I radioed the office, and the director came down. Old paper records were pulled. Nothing matched. 3 names erased from history, layered under a grave that shouldn't have held them. We kept digging. 10 feet down, Darren hit the 3rd box. It wasn't a box anymore, just slats of wood and dust. Inside, a child. No more than 7 or 8 from the look of it. Bones curled up, as if trying to sleep through the cold. There was no cloth, no tag, no reason. That's when I felt it. Not fear, exactly, but presence. Like someone had been watching us from beneath, not above. Like the ground had eyes. Then we hit the 4th coffin. The one marked for Elijah Rinn. Newer. Laminated tag inside the lid, just like the request said. Elijah Rinn died 1972. He was the last one in. Someone had stacked 3 dead strangers under his name. Deliberate, layered, hidden. Later, we found old maps, faint outlines of unmarked graves, stretching beyond the official borders. The original boundaries of the cemetery were larger, but no one recorded what had been moved, or why. That night I came back alone. I stood over the pit, long after the sun went down, no flashlight, just the moon, the smell of old wood, and something sweet, like rotting lilacs. I heard movement down there, not scurrying like rats, shifting, like someone adjusting themselves in bed. I told myself it was in my head. That when I turned to leave, I heard a voice. Not loud, not angry, just tired. It said, "We were never meant to wake." I froze. For weeks afterward, the dreams started. Same one every night. I'm standing at the edge of hollow corner. Only in the dream, it isn't dry, it's wet, slick with mud and rain. There's a hand sticking up from the earth, fingers broken at odd angles, like they'd clawed their way up and failed. And every time I reach out to help, I wake up choking on dirt that isn't there. The state came, took the bones, tagged them, unknown. No investigation, no headlines, like the dead were too inconvenient for the living. They moved Elijah Rinn to a proper plot, stone and all, but we never filled the hole back in. It's fenced off now, the grass won't grow, and animals won't cross it. I still walk past sometimes, and every time I do, I feel it, like someone's waiting. Not angry, not sad, just aware. There's something buried in hollow corner that was never meant to be remembered. That memory, it seeps through the soil like blood through linen. And sometimes the ground gives up more than the dead. Thank you all for being a part of these journeys with me. Your continued support truly means the world, and I absolutely enjoy reading your comments, especially when you share your own experiences and reactions. If these tales had you holding your breath or sent a chill down your spine, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe for more eerie and unsettling stories. Have you ever gone through something similar? Or do you have your own mysterious encounter to share? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to read it. Every story you share helps deepen the connection in our growing community of horror lovers. There's more to come, so stay close for more chilling tales. And remember, the most terrifying stories are often the ones that feel a little too real. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.